Stars Beyond the Monolith, Monorisu wo Koeru Sing. Chapter 8. The Kingdom Beneath the Storm第8話. L'anno shida no wongo, the sky changed first. Princess Parker noticed it during her morning atmospheric survey, a shift in the upper wind patterns that hadn't been there the day before, building across 3 separate regions of the planet's northern continent, with a speed that made her pull the full meteorological model before she'd finished her first cup of tea. "Mom," she said into the bridge channel, "we have a developing situation, large-scale storm formation across the storm basin territory. It's not connected to the fracture incident or the lattice. This reads as a natural seasonal weather pattern, but the scale is significant." Mary studied the projection. "Mecha flight capability?" she asked. "Restricted in the affected zones," Princess said. "The turbulence at altitude would compromise frame stability above a certain threshold. We could push through it, but it wouldn't be controlled flight. It would be surviving flight." Mary considered this with the specific, unhurried thoroughness she brought to every decision that affected her family's safety. "Then we don't push through it," she said. "We adapt. Limited ground team. Mecha support stays in orbit, ready to deploy if conditions allow." She looked at the assembled bridge crew. "Even with everything we've built, we don't stop planning carefully. The technology is a tool. It isn't a replacement for thinking." The ground team. Cassandra led the deployment, a small team, deliberately small, chosen for the specific combination of skills the mission required, rather than for the comfort of full mecha backup. Herself. Amira. Amin, present as protection but operating without the Vanguard's direct physical presence, his connection to the frame maintained only through a standby link that would let him synchronize quickly, if the storm conditions cleared enough to allow it. They descended in Schwartz units, compact, personal servable systems built for exactly this kind of unpredictable terrain. Environmental sealing against the storm's pressure shifts. Energy stabilization that kept their equipment functional in conditions that would have overwhelmed standard instruments. Basic life support redundancy, in case the descent took them somewhere the atmosphere itself became hostile. Shield emitters supplemented the units. Personal defensive fields calibrated for weather exposure and terrain hazard rather than combat. Humming softly around each team member as they stepped onto the planet's surface, for the first time without the towering presence of their frames beside them. "This feels different," Amira admitted, testing her shield emitter's response to a gust of wind that would have, without it, knocked her sideways. "Smaller. I don't love it." "You'll adjust," Cassandra said. "We have to. The Forge can't fly in this. Neither can the Oracle." "I know," Amira said. "I said I don't love it. I didn't say I wasn't going to do it." Amin walked a few steps ahead, scanning the landscape with the quiet, total attention that had always characterized him. Without the Vanguard, without any frame at all. Simply a man reading terrain the way he had read terrain across more centuries than the others fully understood. "There," he said, simply, pointing toward a rise in the landscape where stone seemed to hover slightly above its expected position. The Storm Basin territory. The region that opened before them was unlike anything the family had yet encountered on this world. Floating stone formations drifted at impossible angles above the ground, held aloft by forces Princess's instruments registered but could not yet fully explain. Crystal forests rose in clusters across the basin floor, their faceted surfaces emitting a soft, harmonic light that shifted in tone as the wind moved through them. Not random light, but something closer to music rendered visible. Ancient roads, carved directly into the cliff faces that bordered the basin, suggested a civilization that had been moving through this landscape for a very long time. "This is extraordinary," Cassandra said, recording everything with the dense, careful attention she brought to anything new. It was Amin who saw them first, figures tall and luminous, emerging from the crystal forest's edge with the deliberate, unhurried movement of beings who had detected the team's arrival some time before, announcing their own presence. They rode creatures larger than any horse, storm beasts, their hides catching the basin's ambient light in shifting patterns, their riders armored in materials that seemed to be grown from the same crystal that lit the forest around them. The veil in order. "Hold positions," Amin said quietly. "Let them approach." First contact. The lead rider dismounted at a careful distance, close enough for conversation, far enough to communicate that trust had not yet been established. The Valen warrior was tall, easily a head above Amin, their features arranged in a configuration that was humanoid, but distinctly, beautifully not human, their armor's crystal inlays pulsing faintly in a rhythm that seemed tied to their own heartbeat. They spoke. The language was unfamiliar, Metsit, but not without structure, and Cassandra's portable translation array, built from the linguistic data the family had been accumulating since their very first contact with an alien species, began working through it in real time. "They're cautious," Cassandra said, quietly to her team. "They've seen the Mecha in orbit. Their translation register is using words that map roughly to sky machines and unknown." She stepped forward, not with the Cyber Viper's confidence, not with any frame at all, just herself, hands open, the specific quality of presence that she had watched her grandmother demonstrate across every first contact this family had ever navigated. "We come in peace," she said, letting the translation array carry the words across the gap between species. "We don't seek to disturb your land. We're explorers, travelers." The Valen warrior studied her for a long moment. Amin remained a few steps back, present, protective, but deliberately unthreatening, his stillness communicating exactly what stillness had always communicated across every species this family had encountered. The warrior spoke again, slower this time. The translation resolved with greater confidence. "They're asking why our sky machines watch their world," Cassandra said. "I think they've noticed the Cyber Viper and the Aegis on their orbital patrols." "Tell them the truth," Amin said quietly. Cassandra nodded. "They watch because we care what happens here," she said. "Not to control, to help if help is wanted, to leave you in peace if it isn't." The translation carried. The warrior's posture shifted, not fully relaxed, but the specific, gradual easing of tension that suggested the words had landed correctly. A long exchange followed. Cassandra worked through it with patient precision, building vocabulary in real time, letting Amira's occasional dryly practical questions about terrain and weather provide the kind of grounded, non-threatening detail that made the conversation feel less like negotiation and more like simply two peoples learning to speak. By its end, an agreement had formed. The Valen Order would guide them through the basin, along a route their own people knew and trusted. The Storm Trial Path. The Storm Trial Path. The path was, immediately, more demanding than anything their Schwartz units had been tested against. Wind that shifted direction without warning, terrain that rose and fell in patterns, that made every step a small negotiation with gravity. Sections where the storm's electromagnetic interference degraded their communication signals to a thin, intermittent thread, leaving them reliant on each other rather than on the ship far above. "Signals dropping," Amira reported, checking her instruments. "We're on our own for the next stretch." "We adjust," Cassandra said. "Shield emitters at full output through the exposed sections. Schwartz units handle the rest." They moved as a unit. The specific, practiced coordination that the family had built across every mission since the very first rescue, now applied without the comfort of their frames, relying instead on each other's hands and instincts, and the equipment. They carried. A large, slow-moving creature crossed their path, part-way through the basin, part of a migration herd, Cassandra's scans confirmed, entirely unconcerned with their presence, simply moving through the only home it had ever known. They waited. They let it pass. It was, Princess would later note from the ship, exactly the kind of patient observation that defined how this family had learned to move through unfamiliar worlds. And it was during this stretch of patient waiting that Cassandra noticed something else. "The Monolith network," she said quietly, checking her instruments.
"I'm reading a subtle response. Very faint, but it's there." "Hostile?" Amin asked. "No," Cassandra said. "Just aware. The same quality I noticed at the lattice seat months ago. Like the planet is registering that we're here." She looked at the crystal forest around them, its harmonic light shifting in patterns. She was only now beginning to suspect we're not entirely random. This world has systems beneath it that we still don't fully understand. The dragon. The creature appeared on the horizon with no warning at all. Enormous, wings catching the basin's filtered light, its presence registering on every instrument the team carried before any of them had fully processed what they were seeing. The Veiling guide raised a hand, not in alarm, in the specific practice gesture of someone signaling a known, manageable event. "It's not attacking," Amin said, reading the creature's movement with the same calm assessment he had always brought to every encounter with something large and powerful. "It's reacting to the environment. The storm. The wind patterns are shifting around its flight path, not the other way around." The translation array picked up something from the Valen guide, words that resolved, roughly, to "the old one returns with the season, and we do not fight what the world itself brings forth." "It's a natural cycle," Cassandra said, processing this quickly. "Not a threat we're meant to neutralize. A force we're meant to understand." The wind intensified. The dragon's enormous wings stirred currents that moved through the entire basin, the crystal forest's harmonic light flaring brighter, the storm beasts shifting nervously beneath their riders, the team's shield emitters working harder to maintain stable coverage. "The Mecha can't engage here," Princess's voice came through, faint but audible, the ship's relay catching just enough signal to reach them. "Atmospheric instability is too severe at that altitude. Whatever happens down there, you're handling it yourselves." Cassandra looked at the Valen guide. "What do your people do?" she said. "When the old one returns?" The guide's response, translated slowly, carried the specific weight of ritual passed through countless generations. "They calm it," Cassandra said. "Together, not with force." The calming. The Valen Knights began their ritual, a coordinated, resonant chant that rose from a dozen voices simultaneously, their crystal armor pulsing in synchronized rhythm, the harmonic light of the surrounding forest beginning to match their pattern. Cassandra understood, watching it, exactly what was needed. "I can synchronize our equipment to their resonance frequency," she said, working quickly. "Amira,
I need you adjusting our energy output to match their pattern in real time. If we can add our systems to what they're already doing, instead of working separately. Already on it, Amira said, her hands moving through her engineering interface with the specific, focused precision that had become, over the past months, genuinely impressive. Frequency locking now. Amin moved to the center of the team's position, not toward the dragon, not away from it, but to the specific point where his stillness could anchor everyone around him against the turbulence building through the basin. Hold together, he said, quiet, certain. The combined resonance, Valen ritual, human engineering, the specific quality of coordinated calm that this family had always brought to moments of potential chaos, rose through the storm. The dragon's wings slowed. It descended gradually, settling into the crystal forest center, with the unhurried grace of something that had done this every season for longer than the Valen Order's oldest stories could fully trace. It looked at the gathered knights, at the small team of humans standing among them, and none of them with anything resembling threat. Then it folded its wings and the basin's wind began, slowly, to still. It's settling, Cassandra reported, her voice carrying quiet wonder. No conflict, no fighting, we just... She paused, searching for the right word. We just understood it. The knight's warning. The Valen commander approached after the basin, fully calmed, removing the ceremonial guard from her crystal-inlaid helm with the specific, deliberate gesture of someone offering something more than ordinary conversation. She spoke at length. Cassandra's translation array worked carefully through the dense, formal structure of what was clearly intended as significant information. She's sharing something her people consider sacred knowledge, Cassandra said. A warning, passed through generations. They call it... She paused, double-checking the translation. The deep below that sleeps. What does it refer to? Amin asked. She's not entirely certain herself, Cassandra said. It's treated as legend, more than confirmed fact. But the structure of what she's describing, Cassandra looked at her own instruments. The Vade monolith resonance she'd be tracking since they entered the basin. It suggests there are layers beneath this planet's surface that go deeper than anything we've mapped, deeper than the lattice, deeper than the Guardian network. Connected to the monolith, Amin said. Possibly, Cassandra said. She doesn't know for certain, but the warning has survived for as long as her people have kept records, which on this world is a very long time. The commander placed a hand briefly against her chest, a gesture the translation array flagged as a form of formal respect, and mounted her storm beast, her people gathering behind her with the same unhurried grace with which they had first arrived. Travel safely, the translation rendered, as the Valen Order began its return into the crystal forest. The world watches more than it shows. The observation, that evening, with partial communication restored to the Parker, Cassandra stood at the edge of this now peaceful basin and looked up at the sky, the storm clear enough now that somewhere far above the cloud line, she knew her family was watching the same stars from a very different vantage point. This world isn't reacting to us randomly, she said, into the open channel. I've felt it 3 times now, the lattice, the Guardian network, and today, in the basin. It seems aware of our presence in some way, not hostile, just watching. The channel was quiet for a moment. Mary's voice came through, calm and considering. Keep recording everything, she said. We'll talk through it fully when you're back aboard. Amin remained beside Cassandra, looking at the same sky, saying nothing, but his stillness carried, as it always did, the specific quality of someone who had heard. Exactly what. Mattered in what his daughter had sighed and was already thinking several steps ahead. Above them, far beyond the clearing storm, the Parker held its patient orbit. The Aegis and the Cyber Viper's automated systems maintained their watch from the sky, small guardian shapes visible only to instruments now that the Mecha themselves remained docked, waiting for conditions that would let them fly again. Below, the Valen Order returned to the routines of their ancient, careful life. Nights and storm beasts and crystal forests that sang with the wind. A civilization that had learned, across countless generations, to live alongside forces larger than themselves rather than fighting them. 3 layers of one extraordinary world. A ship in orbit, guardians in the sky, a kingdom on the ground, ancient and luminous and quietly, patiently watching the family that had come to learn its secrets. And somewhere beneath all 3 layers, deeper than the lattice, deeper than the guardians, something the Valen called the deep below that sleeps continued its long undisturbed rest, waiting, as everything ancient on this strange, connected network of worlds seemed to wait for the moment it would finally need to wake. End of Chapter 8. The Kingdom Beneath the Storm. Estrellas más allá del monolito. Mono리스о越る星々. Capítulo 8. El reino bajo la tormenta de Allá no wango el cielo cambió primero. Princess Parker lo notó durante su sondeo atmosférico matutino. Un cambio en los patrones de viento superiores que no había estado allí el día anterior, formándose a través de 3 regiones separadas del continente norte del planeta, con una velocidad que la hizo llevar el modelo meteorológico completo antes de terminar su primera taza de té. Mamá, di yo, al canal del puente.
Tenemos una situación en desarrollo. Formación de tormenta a gran escala a través del territorio de la Cuenca de Tormentas. Mary estudió la proyección. ¿Capacidad de vuelo de Mecha?, preguntó. Restringida en las zonas afectadas, dijo Princess. Mary consideró esto con la minuciosidad específica y sin prisa que traía a cada decisión que afectaba la seguridad de su familia. Entonces, no forzamos el paso, dijo. Nos adaptamos. Equipo terrestre limitado. El soporte de Mecha permanece en órbita, listo para desplegarse si las condiciones lo permiten. Miró a la tripulación reunida del puente. Incluso con todo lo que hemos construido, no dejamos de planificar cuidadosamente. La tecnología es una herramienta, no es un reemplazo para pensar. El equipo terrestre. Cassandra dirigió el despliegue. Un equipo pequeño, deliberadamente pequeño, elegido por la combinación específica de habilidades que la misión requería, en lugar de por la comodidad del respaldo completo de Mecha. Ella misma, Amira, Amin, presente como protección, pero operando sin la presencia física directa del Vanguard, su conexión con el frame mantenida solo a través de un enlace de espera, descendieron en unidades Schwartz, sistemas de supervivencia personales compactos, construidos exactamente para este tipo de terreno impredecible. Los emisores de escudo complementaban las unidades, campos defensivos personales calibrados para exposición climática y peligro de terreno en lugar de combate. Esto se siente diferente, admitió Amira, probando la respuesta de su emisor de escudo a una ráfaga de viento. Más pequeño, no me encanta. Te ajustarás, dijo Cassandra. Tenemos que hacerlo. La fragua no puede volar en esto. Tampoco el oráculo. Amin caminó unos pasos adelante, escaneando el paisaje con la atención silenciosa y total que siempre lo había caracterizado. Ahí, dijo, simplemente, señalando una elevación en el paisaje donde la piedra parecía flotar ligeramente sobre su posición esperada. El territorio de la Cuenca de Tormentas. La región que se abrió ante ellos era diferente a cualquier cosa que la familia hubiera encontrado todavía en este mundo. Formaciones de piedra flotante se desplazaban en ángulos imposibles sobre el suelo. Bosques de cristal se alzaban en racimos a través del piso de la cuenca, sus superficies facetas, emitiendo una luz suave y armónica que cambiaba de tono mientras el viento se movía a través de ellos. Fue Amin quien los vio primero. Figuras altas y luminosas, emergiendo del borde del bosque de cristal con el movimiento deliberado y sin prisa de seres que habían detectado la llegada del equipo algún tiempo antes de anunciar su propia presencia. La Orden Valen. Mantengan posiciones, dijo Amin en voz baja. Déjenlos acercarse. Primer contacto. El guerrero líder desmontó a una distancia cuidadosa. El guerrero Valen era alto, fácilmente una cabeza más alto que Amin, sus rasgos arreglados en una configuración que era humanoide pero distintivamente, hermosamente no humana. Habló. El lenguaje era desconocido, pero no sin estructura, y el array de traducción portátil de Cassandra comenzó a trabajar a través de él en tiempo real. Son cautelosos, dijo Cassandra, en voz baja a su equipo. ¿Han visto los Mecha en órbita? Ella dio un paso adelante. No con la confianza del Cyber Viper, no con ningún frame en absoluto, solo ella misma, manos abiertas, la calidad específica de presencia que había visto eso para demostrar a través de cada primer contacto que esta familia había navegado. Venimos en paz, dijo, dejando que el array de traducción llevara las palabras a través de la brecha entre especies. No buscamos perturbar su tierra. El guerrero Valen la estudió por un largo momento. Un largo intercambio siguió. Cassandra trabajó a través de él con precisión paciente, construyendo vocabulario en tiempo real. Al final se había formado un acuerdo. La Orden Valen los guiaría a través de la cuenca. El sendero de prueba de la tormenta. El sendero de prueba de la tormenta. El sendero era, inmediatamente, más exigente que cualquier cosa contra la que sus unidades Schwartz habían sido probadas. La señal está cayendo, reportó Amirath, revisando sus instrumentos. Estamos solos por el siguiente tramo. Nos ajustamos, dijo Cassandra. Emisores de escudo a salida completa a través de las secciones expuestas. Y fue durante este tramo de espera paciente que Cassandra notó algo más. La red del monolito, dijo, en voz baja, revisando sus instrumentos. Estoy leyendo una respuesta sutil, muy débil, pero está ahí. ¿Hostil?, preguntó Amin. No, dijo Cassandra. Solo consciente. La misma cualidad que noté en el sitio del retículo, hace meses. El dragón. La criatura apareció en el horizonte, sin ninguna advertencia en absoluto, enorme, sus alas capturando la luz, filtrada de la cuenca. El guía Valen levantó una mano, no en alarma, en el gesto específico y practicado de alguien señalando un evento conocido y manejable. No está atachando, dijo Amin, leyendo el movimiento de la criatura con la misma evaluación calmada que siempre había traído a cada encuentro con algo grande y poderoso. Está reaccionando al entorno. Es un ciclo natural, dijo Cassandra, procesando esto rápidamente. No una amenaza que se supone que neutralicemos, una fuerza que se supone que entendamos.
Los Mecha no pueden participar aquí, legó la voz de Princess, débil pero audible. Lo que sea que pase ahí abajo, ustedes lo están manejando solos. Cassandra miró al guía Valen. ¿Qué hace su gente?, dijo. ¿Cuando el viejo regresa? La calma. Los caballeros Valen comenzaron su ritual, un canto coordinado y resonante que se elevó de una docena de voces simultáneamente. Cassandra entendió, observándolo, exactamente qué se necesitaba. Puedo sincronizar nuestro equipo a su frecuencia de resonancia, dijo, trabajando rápidamente. Mira, necesito que ajustes nuestra salida de energía para igualar su patrón en tiempo real. Ya estoy en eso, dijo Amira, sus manos moviéndose a través de su interfaz de ingeniería, con la precisión específica y enfocada que se había vuelto, en los últimos meses, genuinamente impresionante. Amin se movió al centro de la posición del equipo, no hacia el dragón, no lejos de él, sino al punto específico donde su quietud podía anclar a todos a su alrededor contra la turbulencia que se formaba a través de la cuenca. Manténganse juntos, dijo. Tranquilo, seguro. La resonancia combinada se elevó a través de la tormenta. Las alas del dragón se ralentizaron. Descendió, gradualmente, asentándose en el centro del bosque de cristal, con la gracia sin prisa de algo que había hecho esto cada temporada, durante más tiempo del que las historias más antiguas de la Orden Valen podían rastrear completamente. Entonces plegó sus alas, y el viento de la cuenca comenzó, lentamente, a calmarse. Se está asentando, reportó Cassandra, su voz llevando un asombro silencioso. Sin conflicto, sin lucha, solo hizo una pausa, buscando la palabra correcta. Solo lo entendimos. La advertencia del caballero. La comandante Valen se acercó después de que la cuenca se calmara completamente, quitándose la guardia ceremonial de su yelmo incrustado de cristal. Habló extensamente. El array de traducción de Cassandra trabajó cuidadosamente a través de la estructura densa y formal de lo que claramente estaba destinado a ser información significativa. Está compartiendo algo que su gente considera conocimiento sagrado, dijo Cassandra. Una advertencia, transmitida a través de generaciones. Lo llaman, hizo una pausa, verificando 2 veces la traducción. Lo profundo que duerme. ¿A qué se refiere?, preguntó Amin. Ella misma no está completamente segura, dijo Cassandra, pero la estructura de lo que está describiendo. Cassandra miró sus propios instrumentos. Sugiere que hay capas bajo la superficie de este planeta que van más profundo que cualquier cosa que hayamos mapeado. Conectado al monolito, dijo Amin. Posiblemente, dijo Cassandra. La comandante colocó una mano brevemente contra su pecho, un gesto que el array de traducción marcó como una forma de respeto formal. Viajen con seguridad, renderizó la traducción. El mundo observa más de lo que muestra. La observación. Esa noche, con comunicación parcial restaurada con el Parker, Cassandra se paró en el borde de la cuenca ahora pacífica y miró hacia el cielo. Este mundo no está reaccionando a nosotros aleatoriamente, dijo, al canal abierto. Lo he sentido 3 veces ahora. El retículo, la red guardiana, y hoy en la cuenca. Parece estar consciente de nuestra presencia de alguna manera. No hostil, solo observando. El canal estuvo en silencio por un momento. La voz de Mary llegó, calmada y reflexiva. Sigue registrando todo, dijo. Hablaremos de esto completamente cuando estés de vuelta a bordo. Emin permaneció junto a Cassandra, mirando el mismo cielo, sin decir nada, pero su quietud llevaba, como siempre, la calidad específica de alguien que había escuchado exactamente lo que importaba en lo que su hija había dicho, y ya estaba pensando varios pasos adelante. Arriba de ellos, mucho más allá de la tormenta que se aclaraba, el Parker mantenía su órbita paciente. Abajo, la Orden Valen regresó a las rutinas de su vida antigua y cuidadosa, caballeros y bestias de tormenta y bosques de cristal que cantaban con el viento, una civilización que había aprendido, a través de innumerables generaciones, a vivir junto a fuerzas más grandes que ellos mismos en lugar de luchar contra ellas. 3 capas de un mundo extraordinario, una nave en órbita, guardianes en el cielo, un reino en el suelo, antiguo y luminoso, observando silencioso y pacientemente a la familia que había venido a aprender sus secretos. Y en algún lugar bajo las 3 capas, más profundo que el retículo, más profundo que los guardianes, algo que los Valen llamaban lo profundo que duerme, continuaba su largo y perturbado descanso, esperando, como todo lo antiguo en esta extraña y conectada red de mundos, parecía esperar el momento en que finalmente necesitaría despertar. Fin del capítulo 8. El reino bajo la tormenta.